We're back. Thanks for staying with us. Joined now by two gentlemen with the company NovAccess Global Incorporated, XSNX, their stock symbol. Mr. Dwain Irvin, the CEO, and Neil Laird, the Chief Financial Officer. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Good to see you, Don.
Glad to be here.
Now, of course, you're a development stage company, pre-revenue. That takes a lot of money to operate. How have you financed the company to date?
So, Don, in 2020, in September of 2020, we acquired a biopharmaceutical company, StemVax, which is developing novel therapies for brain cancer, brain tumor patients. We financed that acquisition by issuing stock. We issued 7.5 million common shares to the previous owner, NovAccess Global. Since then, we've raised $1 million of debt. We've got a very supportive lender. They initially put in $500,000 and then have come back and given us more cash. Additionally, we've raised about $600,000 from friends and family in a small round of people who've really given us a lot of great support. So total, we've raised about 1.6 million in cash.
What do you value your assets currently?
Well, our assets are primarily the StemVax platform, the licenses and patents that we have associated with the novel therapies that we're developing. At the time of the acquisition, we had significant value placed on those by an independent third-party valuation firm. And since then, with all the progress we've made, we've got all our filings up to date. We've done a lot to restructure the balance sheet. And we had a very successful pre-IND meeting with the FDA. So I think we should have even more value on our assets at this point.
What would you say are the various catalysts to accelerate the growth of the company and its valuations?
Well, I think the important thing is that we get our IND application into the FDA, which should happen early next year. Before that, we are close to signing an agreement with a manufacturing partner to help us get to that IND status. We also hope to be filing an orphan drug application with the FDA. And we're also working with OTC to get upgraded to the OTC QB. And each one of those milestones, I think, is going to add value to the company.
Is there a time frame with the FDA, or do you just basically have to wait for them?
Well, I think Dwayne would be better able to answer that question.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Once we file the IND application, the FDA has roughly 30 days to give us a bit of a response. And then there's typically a back and forth to make sure the application's in order. And that can take anywhere from months to well over a year. We'd like to think that with the expertise that we have and our previous experience, that we would have that be as efficient a process as possible.
Well, Neil, how much money is needed for each phase of activity in drug development?
Well, to get us to the IND application, I think we'll need somewhere between $4 and $5 million, which we hope to raise over the next few months. Once we get through the IND process, then as you know, these drug development can cost millions of dollars. So we think it could be in excess of $20 million over a number of years in order to complete all the clinical trials that will be required.
Well, what's the end game, or for other words, exit strategy for the company and shareholders? What kind of valuation can be derived?
I think Dwayne can answer that.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Neil. Every step along the way, we are a research and development company. So every step along the way, as we go through the milestones necessary to bring this particular technology to market, when we have good data, good evidence to show that we are on the right track, where we can demonstrate safety or we can demonstrate efficacy, every time we've completed sort of a phase of an individual trial, if we have positive results, typically the value of the company goes up. And so traditionally, they're great inflection points for a company once they file the IND and obtain FDA approval. That becomes a great opportunity for increase in value. Another opportunity is once a clinical trial has been completed and you have great data, that becomes another inflection point where there's typically an increase in value for the company. And so we'd like to think that those rules will apply to us here as well. And so as we mentioned, we'd like to file that IND early in 2023 and hopefully obtain a FDA approval sometime in 2023. And that would be a great opportunity to see whether or not that plays out, the increase in value, which can be a great exit opportunity for many investors who've come in very early during those risky time periods. And then again, we plan to execute a trial. The first trial, we'll see what that will be, but would likely take roughly 3.5 years. And then we would have another opportunity thereafter. The data looks very promising to have an inflection point and a significant increase in value. So now this technology typically will take us, on average 10 plus years to get through all clinical trials to bring a drug to market. We are at the IND stage where we're asking the FDA to start with new clinical trials. And so this is a very long-term investment for most. And but along the way, there should be opportunities for there to be exit strategies for investors who come in very early, if they'd like. But of course, we'd like to see investors, and most of them, I think, will be in it for the long haul and continue to support us until we determine whether or not this particular approach will make it to market.
Well, of course, glioblastoma or brain cancer, as it's more commonly known, doesn't always have a good prognosis. You're hoping to change all that, correct?
Absolutely. There's a significant unmet need here. Despite all the advances in chemo and radiation in the last 40, 50 years, where you've seen improvement in survival for other cancers, we've not seen that for brain cancer as of yet. And so this promising novel approach, we'd like to think, might provide an opportunity to see a significant increase in survival. In some of the previous trials with other versions of this immunotherapy have demonstrated some real promise in increase in survival. And so we'd like to think this more advanced version will dovetail on that and give us even more improvement in overall and progression-free survival. And so we look to see if the data bears that out in the near future.
The stock symbol's XSNX, NovAccess Global Incorporated. Gentlemen, great update. Lots of fantastic information. Thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you, Don. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.